Hey beautiful soul, welcome back to another video here on my channel. If you are new, hi, my name is Natalie and this is Be a Free Spirit. The focus of this channel is to bring the unconsciousness to the light. So I focus a lot on the self. Self-love, self-awareness, self-growth, anything to do with the self. So if that's something that interests you and you haven't already subscribed, then consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. I do upload about 2 to 3 times a week. But today's video is a little different. I wanted to do, like, out of nowhere today, I had a completely different video or reading planned. And all of a sudden I just got the feeling of you need to record this because I have been thinking about this for a long time. So this video is for all of you out there who are interested in learning tarot or learning to read oracle cards, but feel more drawn to it in a different way. In the sense that I actually don't really know the tarot system that well. I'm studying it because I want to respect the craft and I want to actually get to know the cards, but I actually don't really know what any of them mean. I'm an intuitive reader in the sense that I just use images. I actually prefer oracle cards. I could read primarily with oracle cards if I wanted to, but there is something beautiful about tarot because tarot offers a strict system, right? That is very the same every time usually, but what's beautiful is you can incorporate that same structure into different energies, right? Through different types of decks. Like for example, this is an angel deck, and this is the one that I really connect to with the tarot system because the images are so, they do challenge your intuition, and I personally love working with angels. So this video is primarily based on tarot cards, okay? So if you're interested in seeing an additional video on oracle cards and more how I read oracle cards and some of the decks that I recommend, then let me know and I can definitely do a video. But I wanted to really focus on tarot. So let's jump straight into the video. So to get us started, we're gonna do a little bit of an exercise. So we're just kind of working with the major arcana, which is the hero's journey. And it's just kind of a beautiful story. So I think this is such a beautiful part of tarot. One of the very important frameworks that tarot provides is kind of this hero's journey, which is all about the soul. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put up an image on the screen of just a random major arcana card. And I want you to just take a few seconds to observe the card. And if you're familiar with tarot, then you may know the meanings, but maybe focus more on what the picture is telling you, okay? So I'm just gonna give you a few seconds to look at the image that I'm placing up right now and just let your intuition guide you on what's happening in the image. So ask yourself questions like, what is happening behind the figure in the image? What kind of colors are surrounding? Is there any numbers? Is there any symbols? So just kind of observe, and there's no right or wrong answer here. It's whatever you see is what your intuition is guiding you to. So just take a few moments to just exercise that. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is I just randomly shuffled the deck to see which card Spirit wanted us to talk about today. So I'm gonna put the image here. And as you can see, I'm using images from the traditional Rider Waite Smith deck. That is like the, kind of most common tarot system. I don't really resonate with that deck very well. The images just don't really speak to me personally, but I know it's just such a kind of known deck, so I wanted to kind of use it in this exercise to really just respect, the origins of it. But this deck is a little bit more modern. So now that this image is up, take a few moments now to kind of do the same thing and just take in, okay, what is this image telling you? And now I really want you to look at this card in comparison, okay? So really see what you notice in the difference between the images, okay? It's not so much focusing on, if you do know the tarot system, try to detach from the meanings of the cards and pay more attention to the images, okay? So you notice some similarities, right? And it'd be pretty easy to notice that some of the common themes within the Chariot card from the image alone is a presence of yin and yang, right? Because you always have the opposite of the black horse and the white horse representing the yin and the yang energy. So that's usually always present in the Chariot card, signifying that there's always harmony and balance within it. And then you have someone who's usually commanding this chariot, right? And they're not always horses. It can really just kind of depend on the energy of that deck, which is what is so beautiful. But there's always someone guiding these horses, right? Signifying that this is a journey that is kind of divinely guided, right? Especially with this deck, you know that angels are really behind kind of driving what's happening in your life, right? When you use it in that context. And then this is also a fast-paced movement, right? These horses are not still, they're not slow, they're in the sky, they're flying. So they're at a faster speed than even the fastest horse in the minor arcana. So those are just very subtle hints that can tell you what is going on in the image. And that's what intuition and intuitive reading is really all about. It's just about seeing and observing what is actually happening in the picture. And then your intuition and your higher self or self will tell you what's associated with that based on your other images. So let's do another one. All right, and we have the Will. So popping up Rider Waite's version here, and then this one. So yeah, as you can see, they're very similar, but there is differences. So just take a moment to kind of observe the two and just see what the images tell you. What differences do you notice? And just let it come naturally. Don't force anything. Don't think too hard. Just sit back and observe. Even if you need to take a breath, just observe. All right, we'll do one more and then I'll do a little bit of an example and just kind of run you through kind of what I'm getting from just the images that pop up, right? And it would depend on other cards, right? So, and then I'll show you some of my different tarot decks and how I read those intuitively, because some are easier than others. This deck is specifically helpful as I was really just gaining my confidence with reading cards, because I was so hard on myself about having to know every single meaning of the card, but it's just really never the way that I've learned. I don't memorize well. So we'll do one more and then we'll kind of do some examples. All right, so we have the Lovers. Okay, so Rider Waite's one is up here. And I mean, this is a pretty more obvious one, right? From an intuition standpoint, you can kind of make the assumption of what this would mean. So, harmony, right? What else do you really notice in this image as well versus, you know, the Rider Waite version? It's always depicted as, you know, a very divine connection usually, right? And just kind of divine alignment, harmony, just kind of this feeling of true abundance and love, right? So the Lovers is always such a positive and happy vibe, heart chakra card for sure. So, you know, that is really represented in this card, you know, and this is what really made me connect with this card, is really signifying the colors of the green of that heart chakra of true like compassion and unity and, you know, vulnerability and just love. And so you really have to find a deck that you also feel very connected to, because if you don't connect with the deck, then don't force it. So we're just gonna stick with the major arcana, but I'm just gonna pick 3 cards and we're just gonna kind of briefly talk about just based on, you know, the pictures, what the story could be telling, and maybe just some scenarios. So let's start with 3 cards. All right, so we have the Hermit, okay? So the first feeling would be, okay, when you think about this image, right? There's the image of this light shining bright, right? So, and think about what a hermit is, right? A hermit crab, right? Something that goes within, something that kind of shuts out the rest of the world, right? Closes in is really kind of the, because you have to think about some of the symbolism of the name and tying it to the pictures, right? So, and what else do you observe about specifically this hermit? Because you can definitely see that there's maybe some more magical elements here, right? And actually in this deck, he's also the magician. This is the same like kind of persona, the same character, because there is kind of signifying that inner power, right? Something is so powerful about going within and really learning more about yourself unlocks your abilities, unlocks more potential, right? So how those cards actually connect. So you can get all of that from just kind of visually seeing this picture. Okay, so now let's see how we can kind of tie in what's next. So we have the sun, right? And so thinking about what this image is telling us, he has, you know, 2 flames on each hand, again, kind of signifying the kind of idea of peace and harmony, and like he's in alignment, right? And there's solar plexus energy is strong, right? You're really looking for that yellow. You even see like sunflowers in the background, right? There's a horse in the background, just kind of signifying a lot of just bright, kind of energized things happening, right? This is energy. And he's enlightened, right? Because you also have like the scroll specifically in this one versus like the Rider Waite one, right? It's amazing how different images can tell you different parts of the story. All right, so now what we could say between these 2 cards, just looking at the images, is that going within, right, results in knowing more about yourself to feel completely enlightened. That's what these 2 images tell us, just based on the images, no other information, not even, you know, channeling anything. We're just looking at the images. And then the last one is transformation, which is also the Tower in this card. And so actually this is interesting because look at the Tower compared to a deck where they actually changed the name and a little bit more of the imagery as well. These are very 2 different, you know, images and different kind of descriptions of what the card can mean. So that can also tell you different parts of the story, right? So you can kind of gather with this specific image that, you know, the Tower is seen more of a transformation card, right? And it's all about rebuilding, which kind of helps tell you more of the meaning of the Tower card by seeing the original image of, you know, things really crumbling down. This one is looking at the other perspective of things crumbling down to make space for something new, to make space for transformation, right? And so looking at this card, you can make that you can really feel that there is a feeling of, okay, this is a positive thing. Even though it's depicted as negative and people would be worried about the idea of things falling apart, it's about looking for something better. So now putting all 3 of these cards together, okay, we have the transformation, okay, the Tower, the Sun, and the Hermit card, right? So we could say, again, now how it's adding the other element to the story. We go within, going within ignites our inner fire and thus creates transformation. Also going within interacts with this transformation or Tower card because going within means that you will have tower moments, right? Where things will fall apart, but all in the same result of transformation and becoming enlightened, right? So again, no channeling, no specific like messages. It's all just by the story of the card, okay? So now I want to show you a deck that is the opposite energy of this, which is more cosmic. It's the Starchild Tarot, and it was actually more one of the first tarot decks that I bought because it really speaks to me. The energy really speaks to me, like cosmic, and just like the images are just beautiful. I love her art, but it's a little bit of a harder deck to read intuitively. So I just kind of want to show you a comparison and how you can still read one that's not, you know, so obvious, still intuitively, okay? So let's jump straight to that. So this is literally what I'm talking about. Like, I had a little cheat sheet when I first started because I just could not resonate with these cards very well. The energy I resonate with, but yeah, the images were hard that I had to have like a cheat sheet to kind of remind me of like some of the numbers or even like some of the suits and stuff like that, because I was just so confused. So it just shows you that it's all part of a journey, right? But if you're called to something, go for it, because I'm so glad that I started this journey and just took the plunge and didn't follow my ego when my ego was like, you can't do this, you haven't been doing this your whole life, you haven't, you know, been practicing this long enough. But it's like, I just felt so called to it, you know? And so you really just have to follow that despite of what people will think or your skill level. And it's just proof that it really is just about practice and it is just about passion. So anyways, I just want to throw that out there. But I picked the same cards for us to do like comparisons. So you can kind of see the differences between two cards and see if you pick up anything new from seeing them side by side. And I'm sure you've all seen probably both of these decks, but it's just interesting to really go into this comparison. All right, so let's start back with the Hermit. So here we have both of the different cards, okay? So this is the Angel Wisdom and this is the Starchild Tarot. So now taking a look at both of these images, see what you notice. What's different about them? What's similar about them? How do they make you feel? How does this energy make you feel? And how does this energy make you feel? And what different images or colors, objects, numbers, what do you see? So yeah, this one was a lot harder for me to read. You know, you can definitely get the same feeling of going within, kind of being in a meditative state, right? So being in a relaxed state. To me, I personally really resonate with the term the Hermit, maybe just because I resonate with being kind of a hermit naturally myself. So I really like the term Hermit. And Serenity, you know, really gives you the same kind of energy, right? And the same essence, but to me, it doesn't resonate as strongly, but that's just a personal preference. So, but what is beautiful about this is I do like the addition of the moon. Because what's so powerful about this image and why I had an easier time connecting to this image is because the moon really resembles the unconscious. So when you think about when you are going within, you're really going within to kind of shine a light on yourself, right? So you're going to see those unconscious behavior patterns, also called subpersonalities. And so you kind of learn a lot of different things about yourself that bring light to your unconscious. And so the moon really resembles that in this Hermit card specifically, right? Which is beautiful to kind of talk about the importance of that and what is actually occurring when we say, you know, or when you see this Hermit, you know, truly going within. It doesn't mean just meditating more, right? You can really gather that this is truly more than just being at a meditative state. It's about actually looking at yourself. Yes. Cool, awesome. Well, let's move on to the sun now. So now doing the same thing, I want you to just take a look at these cards and just observe what looks the same. What looks different. How does this energy make you feel? What about this energy? What colors do you see? Images. You can really get the essence of, you know, in this card. I really do like it, but you know, it never really gave me the kind of that inner empowerment because there wasn't an image of a person. So it never felt like an inner sun. It really did seem like the essence of an outer sun, which, you know, can feel, just doesn't give you kind of the image of kind of emerging, right, as someone who's balanced, as someone who's enlightened. That's not how I intuitively connected with it, but you may experience something totally different. So that's why it's so important to find a deck that really connects with you. So we'll talk about that next. But yeah, this sun for me is really difficult to read, you know, intuitively. Now that I've really worked more on this skill, I would have a much easier time, because now looking at it, and I haven't really used this deck in a while, looking at it, now what I see is this sun really can represent, though, such a higher level of kind of inner awakenedness, right? Because it's rising above the mountains, right? So now now that I've kind of honed my gift a little bit more, now I can see differently, but it still would not give me that strong message like this one would. Now let's move into the Tower, and then we'll kind of talk about it as a whole. So now seeing these two Tower cards, and how we kind of talked about, you know, how the Rider Waite Smith deck does the Tower so differently, even compared to this deck. So yeah, just take a moment to observe even those three different energies. How does this card make you feel? What about this one? What about the original? What colors do you see? Symbols. This one is, you know, a little bit more similar to the Rider Waite than, you know, this one is. However, this still to me brings a little bit more of a different energy. So what I really notice in this card is there's still a sense of duality. Look at the two moons at the top, right? Again, it brings in that yin and yang energy because you have those obvious opposing kind of energies and colors, right? So it's like the sun and the moon, right? So this is almost like walking into like a divine palace, and there is like a girl, you know, in front of it. She's a little hard to see, but it almost is like kind of just accepting what's happening in this palace, and that, you know, it's gonna crumble and things are gonna turn out for the better, right? Like that's what this image kind of gives me, because there almost is like a fear though, that really, this actually provides some very different intuitive kind of imagery for me. So this is what I see in these two, because for me, this one is a lot more intense. This one does kind of more stick to the original energy vibes of the Tower from the Rider Waite, and nothing is wrong with that. Again, it really just depends on the reading, and there's so many other factors that play into it, and everything, and whatever cards come out, that's meant for that person, right? But this one, you know, has the lightning and does give you a feeling that if you walked through that, it would feel kind of heavy and destructive, which that can be the case with Tower moments, right? But maybe it is kind of being in peace with what happens is happening for you, not to you. Where we kind of talked about, this one is a little bit more of a different perspective of looking at it as just a transformation, but it almost feels like maybe the energy doesn't feel as destructive, maybe due to awareness or the severity of the Tower moment, right? It really just depends. So you would intuitively kind of read what other cards are surrounding, but it just shows you how powerful images are. Before I kind of tell you some of my favorite decks, I just want to share some other tips and thoughts around kind of intuitively reading, because what reading is all about, you know, reading tarot or oracle cards is all about, is just reading the images. It's just about reading the images that are telling you a story. And so what's really important about honing in those skills, if you're looking to really develop kind of more being an intuitive reader and having the combination of knowing, you know, maybe what the cards say and knowing what the intention was behind the cards can be important, and then combining that with the skill of reading them with just the images, right? So whatever the case is for you, if you're looking to really tune this skill, it's really important to connect with your inner child, because your inner child has kind of that gift of just seeing the world through more of a story lens. And I can really verify that because my inner child has always been very intact. I've just always been connected to my inner child, and I was very imaginative as a kid. Didn't realize at the time that that was my spiritual gifts that were actually like occurring. I just thought that's how everyone saw the world, and that's just how everyone imagines things and sees things. But regardless, you know, when you're a child, you really hone that kind of ability, right? And that closer connection to spirit and source until it's unfortunately, you know, unraveled out of us by society, right? So the thing is connecting with your inner child and kind of connecting to that sense of being wondrous again, and finding the decks that really make you feel kind of giddy like a child, because that's what like these do for me. Every time that I hold a deck in my hands, I just feel so happy. And when I look at the images, they just make me so happy, right? And I have different decks who serve different purposes, right? Because obviously this is my job. So I have lots of different decks that serve different purposes that all don't necessarily call to me at every moment, but is necessary to depict a certain energy and communicate a certain energy. So yeah, that's kind of a tip that I would say. And then again, I just want to, you know, rehash that you don't need to be perfect, and you don't need to know what every tarot card means by heart. You know, just do whatever feels right to you. And it's all about owning your own practice, right? And really just feeling into it for yourself. And, you know, if you don't want to read for other people, you don't have to. It can just be for you, right? But even if you do, it's okay to just own your natural gifts, right? Because that's all really what tarot and oracle cards are for, is just a tool to channel spirit and your natural gifts that you already have. All right, so these are my top 3 decks that I recommend if the energy calls to you for kind of learning how to intuitively read. So this is the one we've been working with, which is the Angel Wisdom Tarot. This is like 20 bucks on Amazon, and they're really big cards, I think, in comparative to maybe some other tarot decks out there, which I prefer because I like this big of a card, like oracle card. This is more like what an oracle card is. So I personally like these bigger cards, but it's not a deal breaker for me because the Light Seer's Tarot, which is the next one, is more this size. So this is the next one I recommend. And again, this is like 20 bucks on Amazon, and this is a really good quality deck. This one is a lot more modern, right? So if you're not really into like angels, that's okay. You know, this one would be more of a modern one. And this is a pretty popular one, so I'm sure you've seen this, but I'll just show you a few cards. What's really beautiful about these is there's a lot of diversity, and it is modern in the sense that it's not channeling spiritual kind of energy necessarily, right? It's kind of channeling to be more connective to everybody, and the energy is just very clear in the images, right? Again, looking at this, you can really see that she looks completely bored, right? Even though there's like this rainbow of color, she just doesn't see it, right? So very clear messages that are just, you can easily tell what's happening. So this is a lot more of an intuitive deck in, you know, kind of comparison to the original Rider Waite Smith. But remember, this is all my opinion. That may not be the case for you. So I'm just kind of sharing my experience for someone that, you know, may be in a similar experience than me. So yeah, definitely recommend this one if you're learning to kind of read intuitively. The images definitely really help. And then the last one I recommend is the Druid Craft Tarot. So this is a little bit similar to the Angel Wisdom. It kind of provides the same grounding kind of earth energy, but it's a little bit more like, yeah, Celtic, right? Like Celtic, a little bit more earth energy, I would say. This is one of the first ones I bought. So yeah, just show you kind of some of the first ones. So like, you know, now I kind of prefer ones that do have full images. I don't love the borders, but this imagery is very rich, okay? Very rich in detail, very rich in color, very just rich in character. And so again, it just really tells a story, okay? So think about that, right? Look at that image, 3 of Cups, okay? 2 people who are working really hard, and it's the highlight of their day to go have some fun with their buddies, you know, in the pub. And it just, this provides kind of more of that, you know, fantasy kind of energy, right? And then this Magician, to me, is so beautiful because it really does depict the power of the Magician versus like, this is the Magician actually on the front of the Angel Wisdom Tarot. This Magician does kind of show you some inner power, but this one shows you a powerful being, right? Because he's got like he's like blind, and he's just like directing the power through his wand because he can just feel the energy because of that third eye, right? So yeah, this is a really good one. And again, these cards are a little bit bigger. I actually think, yeah, these are even bigger than like a normal oracle card. So if you also prefer that to see the images better, that is why I prefer oracle size cards, because it provides more space for the image because I don't always see very well. So that's just something to keep in mind too. But yeah, those are the top 3 decks I recommend. But this is definitely my #1 recommendation if you're learning to read intuitively and you don't understand the tarot system or don't want to learn it. This will help you learn it over time because it does have the keywords on the bottom, and you know, the images still kind of correlate to the original Rider Waite deck, where, you know, the Starchild Tarot completely like doesn't care about like the original imagery, which is fine, right? Because it provides 2 very different perspectives. But that's why this one I would say is the best direction if you're wanting something that is just a little bit more simple and easy, and will just be something to get you started. So yeah, definitely let me know what you guys thought of this video, and if you'd like to see something similar but on oracle cards, or if you want to see, you know, deck collections or just get more recommendations, definitely let me know. I would love to share, you know, what I've learned so far, so we can kind of teach each other and just continue to build off of each other. So yeah, definitely let me know. But I will see you guys in the next video.